The question begins by telling us that there's an equation that is passing through certain points on a Cartesian plane, and this equation is given as 2y is equals to 3x plus 6. And fortunately, the question tells us that it is actually going to meet the x-axis and y-axis at two very important points labeled as P and Q. So I'm just going to make a sketch of this equation and be able to see how it actually cuts the y-axis and the x-axis at two different points. So this equation cuts the x and the y-axis at P and Q. So at x-axis at point P and at y-axis at point Q. And I'm told to get the coordinates of P and Q. So I'm supposed to first be able to understand this, that the coordinates of P are obtained as follows. And at this point P, I know very well that the coordinate y is given as 0. In other words, where the line cuts the x-axis, this is our x-axis, or you can also be able to refer to it as y is equals to 0. This is our y-axis, or our x is equal to 0. So at a point where the curve cuts the x-axis, then that means y is equals to 0. So this is called x-axis or y is equals to 0, y-axis or x is equals to 0. So if I want to get the coordinates at point P where the line cuts the x-axis, I need to know first that the value of y is 0. So what will be the corresponding value of x? If this is 0, then you can have maybe 1, 2, 3 going forward. So I need to actually come here and say 2y plus or is equals to 3x plus 6. And I know very well at this point, that is point P, the value of y is 0. So I just substitute 2 into 0, then must be equal to 3x plus 6. At this point P, the value of y is 0. So there is y in that equation of that straight line, I put 0. So I'm going to have 0 is equals to 3x plus 6. I'll take 6 on this other side. So 0 minus 6 is equal to 3x. So 3x is equal to negative 6. Divide both sides by 3. So I'm going to have x as negative 2. So the coordinates at point P, where the line cuts the x-axis, are negative 2 and 0. And that means that I'm supposed to have this equation passing through this point at that point. So this is where we can have our P and note this point. This was just our initial sketch, but the exact point where that line cuts the x-axis is this point where the value of y is 0 and the value of x is negative 2. Now I want to get the coordinates of point Q. And at this point Q, if this can be our point Q, then you can have our point Q having our x as 0. This line is called the y-axis or x is equals to 0. And this is where the line cuts them y-axis. At this point, x is 0. So we need to get the value of y. So how? We shall take the equation of that line, that is 2y is equals to 3x plus 6. Then we proceed and say 2y is equal to, where there is x we put as 0. Because this is our x and this is our y. This is our x and this is going to be our y. So we shall say 2y is equals to 3 into x is 0, because the line cuts the y-axis, where x is 0, then plus 6. So 2y is equals to 0 plus 6. So 2y is equals to 6. Divide by 2, divide by 2. And that means y is equals to 3. So when x is 0, y is 3. And the coordinates of P are negative 2, 0. To mean it cuts the x-axis where y is 0 and x is negative 2. And the coordinates of Q are x is 0 because it cuts the y-axis where x is 0. And the corresponding value of y at that point is 3.